Hello, my name is Claire, and I have to say that being an intergalactic hero tasked with saving the universe means making some really hard decisions. Do I stay faithful to Caden or embrace my new feelings for Garrus? It's just so hard. If you clicked on this video, you're probably curious to know why romantic narratives in games are a thing. Like, a big thing. While not everyone plays Mass Effect for the romance, obviously. Regardless of how much attention you might give it, what we don't realise is that it actually serves as an entire gameplay mechanic of its own. And it is really powerful in how it affects our experience. So we're here to pull it apart, layer by layer. It's probably not too far-fetched for me to say that Mass Effect is among BioWare's most iconic series. With millions of Shep shippers and Garrus fans around the world, this game franchise is best known for taking all the basic ingredients of a classic RPG and adding about 20 tablespoons of extra spice, juicy lore, and skin-tight lycra. At its core is a pretty simple premise. You play as Shepard, captain of the Normandy, tasked with leading a band of lovable misfits on a quest to save the galaxy from ginormous cuttlefish. What really makes Mass Effect stand out, though, is the freedom for us, playing Shepard, to establish some pretty convincing in-depth relationships. Through vast dialogue systems and a ripple effect of choices that influence the outcomes across all three games. Sorry, we're talking about the main entry series. It's no wonder the most memorable moments of the series aren't the huge boss battles or groundbreaking cinematics, but Shepard let loose with the gang every once in a while. While ME 1, 2, and 3 all boast a really fascinating overarching story and pretty solid controls, it's impossible to separate these games from what truly anchors them in our hearts: the characters. You recruit dozens of crewmates aboard the Normandy, each fitted with their own backstories, personalities, talents, interests, and flaws. While some you'll ignore forever and literally not care about at all, the rest, well, are the reason we get so attached to these games in the first place. And because BioWare are the kings of fan service, if you want to flirt with that handsome drink of water who helped you blast aliens during that last mission, Mass Effect certainly delivers.
We can test your reach and my flexibility.
Oh, I didn't.
Yes, as well as solving complex intergalactic disputes, Shepard is also a master of seduction. So as a game series that, at its core, is essentially about bonding with your crew, it's kind of inevitable that a romance narrative is going to get wrapped up in there. But while it's pretty up there, romance in Mass Effect is a little bit more than fan service, believe it or not. And it starts with looking at it as an actual game mechanic. Here's a depressing thought: love in video games cannot exist. Now, that's not to say they're not capable of emulating and telling stories of love. In fact, they excel at that in the storytelling aspect. What I mean is that love, in its emotional ambiguity, is simply not programmable or easily translated into coding systems. Kind of beautiful, really. Characters flirt, and love can be emulated. But in order for a romance system to function in a gamified sense, it needs to be acknowledged as a quantifiable process. This means that every time we chat to a character, complete a loyalty quest, or equip them on our squad, we're adding points to an ingrained, imaginary sort of relationship meter. According to the game, instead of how we engage with them, it's how often. Romance, like everything in video games, is strictly based on a reward system, an input-reception idea that ensures that our engagement with certain characters are kept track of and rewarded with things like character enhancements or unique dialogue options. Our interactions need to be recorded, quantified, so the game can retain that information and program it into the narrative. If you're like me and Mass Effect at some point came to constitute the bulk of your love life, you'll notice that a sense of reward is crucial to making the romantic elements of the gameplay so effective. And yes, while BioWare may have programmed those gorgeous mandibles to fall so head over heels in love with me, it's important to discuss why this sense of blatant wish fulfillment actually has a personal impact on us. Through a unique system of conversation trees, loyalty missions, and consequential choices, Mass Effect does an excellent job at making you feel totally accountable for the crew's fates, and whether they'll sleep with you, let's be real. The more rooted we feel in our engagement with them, the more our own identity comes to be associated in the relationships we form. Now, player identity is a huge idea because it refers to the boundary between physical us as the player and the us representing us virtually. In genres like puzzlers, platformers, linear action adventures, we're pretty good at dissociating ourselves from what happens to our protagonists because, while we can move them around and interact with stuff, we're still shackled to the boundaries of the virtual world. Yeah, our role as the player has us prompting change to proceed through the level or story, but what change we prompt is mostly out of our control. Basically, we have less opportunity to project ourselves into an already painted canvas. But here's where Mass Effect stands out. Being literally a role-playing game, we're given an uncanny freedom to become intimately involved with the protagonist, who in a sense serves as our avatar. While, yeah, we're technically playing as a set character, Commander Shep, everything from their appearance, skill set, personality, decisions is our doing. The freedom we're given from this blank canvas means that part of ourselves will inevitably bleed into the experience. Listen to this snippet from the Catalan Cultural Studies Journal. Therefore, the act of playing becomes an act of self-expression, self-reflection, and critical interpretation of the designer's worldview. In gameplay, we perform ourselves, our genders and sexualities, and the way we see the world. The performity of our play regards how self-aware we are of expressing ourselves through Shepard's actions, and, by extension, of injecting our own identity into the relationships we form. It's why Shepard's choices are abbreviated to our choices, why Caden is my boyfriend, not Shepard's. Yeah, I'm invested, okay? In saying this effect does rely on your take on role-playing and how personal you want to make it. If you'd rather play Shep as single and free or as a megalomaniacal tyrant abomination, more power to you. But for a lot of people, myself included, we can't help but role-play ourselves through Shepard, to vicariously connect with the characters through them. Shep is essentially a conduit of our identity and can subconsciously come to reflect our personal beliefs, values in a relationship, sexual preferences, even our unique taste and attractive qualities. When you think about how strong this connection is, well, it explains how I got through Legendary Edition in over a week. Whoops. In essence, the effect of forming romantic attachments in Mass Effect really comes down to whether we believe it's happening to Shepard or to us. If it's the latter, then congratulations, you can justify your obsession with a sexy alien frog. Although, to be honest, it's justifiable either way. And while romance isn't the main incentive for Mass Effect, there's a reason it's become such an iconic part of the series. In a previous video, I mentioned how in RPGs and free roam style games, we often invent our own narratives, even when we don't consciously mean to or the game even intends us to. The exact same effect applies to romance in Mass Effect. When we form an attachment with Miranda, or Tali, or Jacob, no one picks Jacob, we have this intrinsic tendency to perceive things that are unique to our playthrough, to invent our own little narratives as we go through it. You know, when the character you romance is always on your squad and you take them along to every single mission, even when they're not a crucial part of that story, and the game hasn't programmed any extra unique dialogue options or scenes with them, but you know, it's like you're on a date together and then they shoot a husk for you and save your life, and it's just a way to spend time with them, you know? If you're really absorbed in the story, arguably, you might choose a mysterious Thane over an equally mysterious Samara just because it feels right. It's because whether we mean to or not, we're constantly projecting narratives through our interactions with characters, generating our own meaning that only deepens our personal connection with them. And once again, the ability to actually make these choices and watch how they play out in the overall narrative means that our interactions with the romantic interests are substantiated and made to feel like they carry more weight and impact on the story. So when the world of Mass Effect gives us the response and legitimizes our romantic choices, those romantic choices in turn deepen our connection with the Mass Effect world. It's a two-way thing. Players familiar with BioWare games are no strangers to their extensive, incredibly intricate lore. Beyond the core stories, the writers went to town with detailed planet descriptions, political complexity, and cultural backgrounds of the many races in the Mass Effect world. While this sheer amount of content is insane and frankly really admirable, would it resonate as much with us if we didn't feel personally connected to it? Sadly, probably not. So what better way to make us invested than to link it to the characters we spend all this time with? Storytelling is at its most memorable when it's relatable and hits our emotional core. Do we care about the Cerberus organization's in-depth genetic experiments if it didn't connect directly with Miranda's troubled past? Does fictional Quarian history interest us if it didn't impact our relationship with Tali? Romantic relationships, and friendships too, really, keep us anchored within Mass Effect's greater narrative. Not only does it build on our understanding and encourage us to actually take stock of the regular info dumps of lore, it also makes these narratives emotional and meaningful. To be honest, if I didn't care so much about the members of my squad, my dumb brain probably would not remember a lot of the info that's thrown my way. In fact, I probably wouldn't really be following along with the story as much as I would if I wasn't so emotionally attached to everybody in the game. In fact, I'm so invested that I think I know more about Mass Effect's world lore than I do my own world lore. It's fine, don't worry about that, it's not important anyway. More than this though, romance can also make the story carry more weight than ever, as you suddenly become directly responsible for the well-being, even survival of a character who loves you. Yes, it's programmed, but it's real. Choices have more meaning, consequences raise the stakes, and you're suddenly more concerned with making Garrus like you than rescuing humankind from the Collectors. Mark Meir, who voices Mel Shep, gets what I mean when he refers to BioWare's attention to developing in-game relationships. They made characters that you wanted to get to know, whose pasts you wanted to learn, and whose futures you wanted to shape. We never stop contextualizing these romantic attachments within the world of Mass Effect, and we can grow so emotionally connected that we tend to test the limits of the relationship designed to contain it. Just how far will the game go in showing the consequences of our romance choices, in rewarding us with additional scenes and unique dialogue, in making these relationships reflective of real life? It's no wonder we're so impacted by these emotional connections that we jump on Reddit as soon as we beat the game to see who else chose to romance Jacob, because, once again, who chooses Jacob? Or rewatch the complete Cade and male Shep romance on YouTube repeatedly. The fact is that we love talking about and sharing our romantic interactions with other players as much as we love playing through them. Probably because we either want to compare or affirm our unique choices with someone else's unique choices. Granted, it's not the core reason we play Mass Effect, but it's hella exciting, right? Romance is, after all, a cultural product in essence, seen in different ways through different ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives. Yes, blue lady aliens and galactic nightclubs might not exist in real life, but the cultural notions of dating and relationships are still relevant even in fictional outer space. It's why Mass Effect has been both praised and criticised for its representation of gender identity and sexuality, because these real-world principles bleed into how they come across through the characters. The reason these representations are so crucial, and why it's so important to get them right, is because they should reflect and be inclusive of all kinds of romantic relationships. There's still a long way to go, but it's also pretty cool to see games like Mass Effect shifting perceptions and loosening heteronormative shackles, and that has to count for something.
I love you, Grunt.
I'll admit I'm a little late to the party, but it's through my experience getting through the trilogy these past couple of weeks that have really made me believe that the characters and story are everything to this game. Mass Effect is more than just a space odyssey, a consequence generator or romance simulator. It's about the bond you form with your crew. Even consequences that aren't really so evident are still made meaningful by your interactions with the squad. Every line delivery and conversation is full of life and personality, from the world building to the relationships you form, romantic or not. Mass Effect is virtually a perfect character-oriented RPG, a beautiful and poignant series that truly individualizes the genre. And regardless of how you choose to engage with it, it's an experience that will stay with you no matter what. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Whether or not you really care about romance narratives in games, and it's fair if you don't, like, you know, each to their own, I guess. I will say that I think it's pretty fair to look at how impactful it can be in generating so much more meaning in our playthrough. I had a ball researching about the implications of romance and how it fits in as a gameplay mechanic because, you know, I think it's a bit of fun to think about how games can really explore new avenues of interaction. Interaction, if you know what I mean. If you enjoyed this, why not leave a like and subscribe? I'm gonna aim to churn out some fresh vids every fortnight, so I'll keep you posted. In the meantime though, I really need to figure out this love triangle between Garrus and Caden, so I might go do that. Bye!